G'day, everybody, and welcome to another DUC Migrating to Australia podcast. Wes down here, and I'm joined by Kevin Cunningham. So, Kevin, welcome, buddy.
Thanks, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. So, let's find a bit about where you are. Where are you calling in from today, mate?
So we live in a little town called St Helens in the northwest of England. Known best over in those shores for winning the World Club Challenge last year up at the bottom of the mountains in Penrith.
Nice.
So yeah, very kind of working class town. Good people, people who kind of look after each other, and
Yep.
yeah, but terrible weather. Hence why I sound like this, because everybody has a cold in December in this country.
How cold is it there at the moment, mate?
Current temperature is 4 degrees.
4?
Yeah.
Oh. And what time is it there?
9:10 in the morning. Oh, sorry, I'm lying. It's 2 degrees.
Oh, jeez.
With highs of 5.
There you go, mate. There you go.
At least it's not raining away.
That's it, mate. That's it. So, a bit of a comparison. This has been recorded, guys, on the 11th to the 12th, 2024. We've got a Melbourne evening. It's 8:10 in the evening, and we're looking at about 20, I think it's 20 odd degrees, it says on my computer, but that's probably a lie because that's inside. But it's nice and sunny, mate. So let's, who's in your family, mate?
So, my wife, the boss, Catherine,
Yep.
we've been together 22 years now, married for 15, and we have...
Bonus points for that one, mate.
Yeah, well, 5 more years. I could have got off for murder, couldn't I? But hey ho, I wouldn't change a thing, just in case she listens. Yeah, we have 2 children. Our firstborn, our daughter, Ella, and our second and last born, our son Joshua. Kind of completed the ideal family, if you like, and yeah, been really blessed to have 2 great kids, although challenging at times. Yeah, both good kids with good morals and good people.
Oh, sounds like Australia. Australia will welcome you all, mate. So, I guess what's your actual occupation, mate? So you're the main applicant for the visa, guys. And
Yeah.
Kevin, what's your occupation, mate?
So I'm a quality assurance manager, and this is the thing that has really frustrated me throughout the process. I'm a quality assurance manager, but I work specifically in education. My whole career has been in education. So since completing my degree and my master's, I went straight into teaching in, I think what you guys call the VET sector, the vocational educational training sector, which is the FE, the further education sector for us. So kind of 16 plus. So yeah, worked my way from being a teacher of sport and maths up to being a team leader, head of department, even director at one point. But yeah, my main role is to kind of quality assure and quality improve education outcomes, teaching and learning, making sure students are getting the best deal that they can through both challenge and support, because I think that's important. We've got to give people an opportunity to improve, and yeah, so that's kind of what I do.
Okay, so what stage of the excuse me, what stage of the visa are you at? Let's go. Just for the listeners, what like where are you at in the process, buddy?
So we started the process firstly in May 2023, and once we'd had our first initial call with Jenny, things became really clear what we needed to collate for the skills assessment. And one of the things I kind of regret now is I was probably a little bit blasé about getting all that stuff together. I didn't kind of like hammer it as much as I should have done. And that's one of the bits of advice I've kind of written down here for one of the questions later. But we submitted that in July, and then passed the skills assessment right at the start of this year. It was actually on my daughter's 12th birthday on the 11th of January. We passed the skills assessment, and immediately got EOIs in. I think it was for Victoria and Queensland.
Yeah.
And then obviously the states closed up for the end of the financial tax year, which was again, that was a bit frustrating. And then we were on holiday in Turkey when we found out that South Australia had reopened and Victoria had reopened. And we were hoping that New South Wales and Queensland would reopen as well, because Quality Assurance Manager was on their list last year, but isn't at the minute. So that's where we're at. We've been waiting almost a year now for an invite to apply, which is that's the point where we know, other than failing medicals and again sounding like I do, probably full of a cold, wouldn't be a good time to have a medical. But yeah, so we're about 18 months in, 19, 20 months in total. Feels a lot longer than that, because time flies these days, doesn't it?
Definitely does.
But yeah.
So, mate, I guess what's interesting with this is you've got your EOIs in, but you're not getting an invite at the moment.
No, and again, another piece of advice I've got later is maybe for people to try and not look at as much social media, because it can get really demoralising. Yeah, I've seen some instances of people getting through the whole process in like less than 5-6 months, and you're thinking, wow, like I've got so much. I feel I've got so much to give, having had a whole kind of career in education. In fact, I've been in education since the age of 3, and I'm 40 years old now, so education's all I know. But yeah, so it is frustrating, but by the same token, I think I completely understand the rationale around why trades are really high at the minute, because it's a growing economy. We need tradies to go and build and get properties ready so that people like me can come over and have somewhere to stay. So I get it, and yeah, it's one of those. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is, and you've got a really good attitude about it too, mate. Because it is frustrating. You know, you like you're waiting for an invite. States are opening, closing. You know, immigration cutting the numbers a couple of years by 75% for skilled people, which means quality assurance managers, you know, go to the bottom, don't they? Like certain occupations, they need less off. You know, you're on the STSOL list, but you still put in the hard work and everything. And I think how's, you know, how like your sort of, I know, because we chat on email about potential jobs and everything like that, and see what we can do that way to go on a sponsored visa, which we'll come to in a minute. But how's the family dealing with it all, mate? Like the kids and everything like that. Are they aware of are they sort of like as disappointed in the slowness of the process as you are? You know, is Catherine like ready to move? Alla, Joshua, are they all ready to move, or are they just sort of you're controlling it?
Yeah, well, should I take you back to the kind of why we started this?
Yep.
So we came to Australia last year in February. We went to San Francisco. We spent 38 hours in San Francisco, slept from San Francisco to Sydney, and we landed Sydney Friday morning, 9 a.m-ish, feeling really fresh. Got down to our hotel, got into Circular Quay, etc. And I mean, I could tell you a 10-minute tale just between that of how nice the lady in the hotel was, the directions we got given, etc., etc. And when we were talking about going to Australia for our trip, the kids were having like a proper argument about something, so we ended up kind of throwing them upstairs. Get upstairs, right? We want you to do this. So I set Joshua a little challenge, and I set Ella a challenge. Joshua was to go and find out how far all the rugby league grounds were from the centre of Sydney, and Ella's was to look at the top 5 things to do. And one of them was to go to Opera Bar, which was just that moment in time. It was about lunchtime, say 12:30. We're sat outside Opera Bar. I'm sure you've been there yourself.
I have not been there.
You've not been to Opera Bar?
No.
This
I've been to the oldest pub in Sydney, but I haven't spent too much time in Sydney personally.
Right, yeah. Well, the Opera Bar, this kind of iconic moments, which is what Ella found in her research, of like you sat eating lunch, having a drink, and you can see the bridge, you can see the ferries, you can see the Opera House. It was just phenomenal, and I think the four of us at that point were just like, "Wow, this is brilliant. This is kind of the lifestyle we want." And then to add to that, the very next day, we got on the bus up to Wollongong because Saints were playing St George Illawarra in a friendly.
Yep.
So we pulled up at the Wynn Stadium, and the way I have always kind of thought what Australia would be like was exactly what happened at this moment. So we got off the coach, and we're with a load of rugby fans, like groups of blokes or families or all people we know and people that we spend a lot of our time with, and they're all straight to the bar because they're on their holidays. They're going watching rugby. They want a few beers, and I was like, oh, I really want to go down to the beach, but we don't have any towels. And I thought, come on, we'll wing it. So we walked down the two famous shows over here, Home and Away and Neighbours. And on Home and Away, when it comes on, you kind of go down this path, and there's like a wooden fence either side, and it's like a couple of trees and sand, and then you're on this beautiful open beach. And that is exactly what happened. And I remember the kids were like drawing stuff in the sand, and Catherine was taking pictures, and I was just stood there, and I was thinking, this is the feeling that I want, like the sand on my feet.
When was this? Sorry, mate. How long ago was this?
This was in February.
Wow.
Sorry, February last year, 23.
Yeah, 23. Yeah.
When we came over for our trip, and I kind of, sorry.
Good time to get here, weather-wise too.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful. Honestly, mate, it was beautiful. The only time really it actually rained was during the game because we were at the bottom of the mountains. And when I say rain, was honestly, mate, it absolutely teamed it down for the best part of 2 hours.
Nice.
Non-stop. But it was warm. It was like being in a shower.
Yeah.
I remember I'm stood watching the game and I've got two beers in my hand, one in each hand, and I'm watching and I'm sipping out of them and I'm watching the game and I'm looking down and they're full again. And I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, my beer's refilling itself. But yeah, it was torrential. But you wouldn't change. Yeah, mate. Honestly, we've never had rain over in this country like that. Never, ever. It was bizarre. It really was bizarre. Like, we're watching I'm a Celebrity, or we've just watched I'm a Celebrity at the minute, and people are in the jungle. I think it's up in Brisbane, isn't it? In the outbacks in Brisbane, and like when you see the torrential rain, and people are saying, unless you've been to Australia and you've felt this rain, you don't know what it's like. But
if you're in the tropics, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah. But we were under the mountains. But anyway, that's by the by. But yeah, so in that moment, that's when I knew. There was that moment, and there was one at the end of the trip, which I'll tell you about a bit later. But that's when I knew. Yeah. We really want this, and the kids were. Joshua was massively invested at the time. We were at the Rocks, and I've got this video. I'll send it to you actually to contextualise at some point. And he does this kind of like, kind of flick over your head with a football, and he does it in slow mo. So I've got it videoed in slow mo, and you've got the Opera House and the bridge in it as well. And he was like, "Oh, Dad, this is brilliant," because he's both my kids are really sporty.
Yeah.
And they love the outdoors. Joshua plays rugby league. He's tried his hand at basketball. He's tried his hand at soccer. He's playing darts currently at the minute at a pretty good level. Ella, she's a cheerleader. She's all about dance and gymnastics and cheerleading. And that's one of the things. Ella wasn't 100% on board because she was a little bit older. But when we said, look, we're going to give this a go, the first thing she did was research cheerleading teams. So where we end up in Australia will probably 100% be dictated by what cheerleading team Ella wants to join.
Where do you want to end up? Don't say Summer Bay or Ramsay Street.
Yes. Is Al still there? No. That's a tough one, mate, if I'm honest. In an ideal world, obviously we had an EOI for Queensland last year. And And in an ideal world, we would have got an invite for Queensland. I think we have friends that live on the Gold Coast who've got like a bit of a what we call over here, and I think they refer to it as, because they were over last year, as a granny flat. And they've said to us, look, if you need like a permanent address to send your move cube to, or you need somewhere to stay for a month or 6 weeks, and you need a car, come to us. And we're kind of like taking that with a pinch of salt, because it's easy to say, come to us, but they're like, no, honestly, like at the bottom of that, there's a house there. You don't need us. You can come and go as you please. There's enough beds for you all. Da, 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 da. So yeah, we're kind of like, would that be our starting point, if you like? Because I think I'm at the point now where once we're invited and we've lodged and passed medicals, I'm ready to go. And I think
are you going to lodge onshore? Like if you get your invite, are you going to come on and do the 3 months and then wait for the grant, or are you going to wait to get the actual visa granted and then arrive so you can work straight away?
No, I think we're going to do a bit of a hybrid of that. I think we're going to wait for the invite, make sure our medicals are cleared. But obviously we're going to lodge. Yeah. We're not going to lodge onshore. We're going to lodge here. Wait until medicals are cleared, police checks are cleared, and then sell the house. I mean, and the house has been ready to go for ages. But we haven't put it out on the market yet. But all the pictures and videos and stuff are done on that. If I got the call tomorrow morning off Jenny, I'd phone the estate agent and say, right, press go on the house.
Prepared, like it.
So that's ready to go, and we're in a pretty comfortable position in terms of the amount of equity we've got on our property. Bizarrely, we've built the perfect home in terms of we had an extension, and I sit here now, we've got a pool table, a massive kind of open plan kitchen stroke leisure room, we've got a darts room, the kids have their own bedrooms. We've built the house that we want, which is stupid.
But the pool table and the dartboard are in the same room, right?
No.
So it's just like a thin room where you play darts.
No, it's a converted garage.
Oh, nice. Okay, trying to get a picture of it in my mind.
Yeah, it's a converted garage. It's got a widescreen TV and loads of memorabilia, rugby stuff. I've got a video of it. I'll send it to you later.
Because in Australia, Kevin, it's like mandatory that your man cave has those things.
Well, look, yeah. I think one of the questions I've not yet had answered is if I'm to put my move cube to put my pool table in, it's a slate bed and it weighs about 120 kilos.
Oh yeah, no, just get it when you're here, mate.
Yeah, if it's on weight, then that'll be staying here. But no, we've got the perfect house, really. But we know we could actually replicate that over there in terms of we're hearing what's happening in terms of buying land and building. And I've got a couple of friends who've moved out there. One who's in Adelaide, and he's a tradie, and they've just built their first house. And so, but in terms of where we're at, when we had the extension, it cost us about 50k, but it's probably put about 110, 120k in value on the house. And we've been paying our mortgage now for, when did we move in together? We've probably 2012, so I think we're about 13 years into paying mortgage. So we've got quite a bit of equity because house prices have jumped up in line with inflation and obviously post-COVID, etc. So we're in a position where I think we could come over to Australia and have a good 6 months comfortable if we needed that. And Jenny's very much like, don't sell anything and don't move anywhere until you've got that visa. And
100%. She's so right, mate.
Yeah.
Can go back. Just with Catherine, what does she do for work, mate?
So Catherine is a sales manager for an industrial company, and she is the product specialist in the welding division.
Oh, nice.
So she's never welded 2 pieces of metal together in her entire life, but she can tell you how to do it, which equipment to use, which one's most cost effective, and what accessories you need, and all that. It's all jargon to me, mate. I listen to her on the calls, and I'm like, what have you even just said? 300 kVA.
I guess, Kevin, have you looked at, is she going to stay in that industry? If she specialises in that, is that something that she's going to choose to do when you move to
Yeah,
Oz?
well, in her previous role, she managed the Australia division.
Oh, nice.
So she's got lots of contacts. So Brisbane Welding, for example, they were probably the biggest up in Queensland, and obviously Queensland's growing, isn't it? Hugely so. It, the bizarre thing is she's got as much opportunity, if not more, than me to get work, and we've looked into that. And but she's got contacts, people that she trusts and who trust her. That
So, Kevin, going back to, you've been waiting a year for an EOI, and I know you're also looking at the sponsored visas too,
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Um, at what point do you go, like, I really, really want, this, because, sorry, I'll reverse that. At what point did you start looking at sponsored visas? Like, how long ago were you thinking, oh, we've been waiting this long? Because obviously there's a difference between a skilled independent visa and a sponsored visa.
Yeah.
So at what point did you start thinking about that part, mate?
So I think what one of the big barriers for me, one of the big things for me that really kind of knocked the wind out of my sails a little bit was turning 40. So I turned 40 in July and lost 10 points, which I was a bit kind of gutted about. But by the time I knew Queensland had closed up, there was no more 190s for Queensland. And I think Victoria announced pretty early, didn't they, that they were closed up as well. I kind of set my mind to, right, okay, I'm gonna enjoy my 40th celebrations, which were extended. My wife will tell you. I'm gonna enjoy those, and we're gonna go on a family holiday, and I'm not gonna think about Australia one bit until we get back. And then when we get back, I'm gonna make it my sole prerogative to find a way. So when we got back, I started to make contact with lots of people from. Do you call it TAFE or TAF?
Yeah, TAFE, yep.
Yeah, from TAFE, Queensland. I've been really lucky actually to make contact with a lady up in the in North Queensland. She's a huge rugby league fan as well, and we've actually just signed a player from there. So we got into conversation, and but one thing that's become a little bit clearer to me is that probably the government jobs and the government funding for sponsored visas is less than maybe some of the kind of training organisations. But over the last kind of 6 weeks or so, things have been quite quiet, particularly in Queensland, because there was an election up there or something. Something was happening, something pretty big up in Queensland. So
why don't you look at normal RTOs, like normal independent training organisations?
yeah, well, so that's kind of the next step. But I think in terms of timing, people are kind of over there now. People are kind of winding down for the summer break. I think.
Oh yeah, we are. Definitely are.
So some email from a guy from England telling you he's got a lovely family, he wants to move to Australia. It's probably not gonna jump in front of your trip to the beach with your surfboard, but yeah, that's kind of so. Again, I've been talking to several people who work over there. I've managed to connect with a couple of people on the DUC Facebook page who work in a similar. I mean, I've connected with this one lady who's got a pretty similar trajectory to me in terms of what she does now, what she did over here. She's moved over there, but probably 10 years ago, where it was it was probably a slightly easier process then. So, but yeah, that's probably the next step for me, is to look at these independent kind of registered training organisations and trying to get my CVs. I've got a list that I need to filter out those that are closed.
So you just chuck them out to as many as possible. So
Yeah, that's the plan.
what else? What else? Because I mean, it's good to get like a bit of a perspective, because we know it's a good podcast, this one, because it's sort of an occupation, as you pointed out before, which has less opportunities at the moment.
Yeah,
With the States, but it's one of those things, mate. I think you're doing the podcast with us, mate, because we've got the amazing ability lately with the podcast. We do a podcast with someone, and then or book it in, mate, and the visas get granted or they get their invite. So I'm sending you with a podcast love, mate. So hopefully
please, yeah, send lots of podcast love, because Nothing would
Yeah,
make Christmas more.
it's definitely on the way and all that. Like, it's sending it. I've sent it to you, mate. It's going to happen. I had a question for you. Now my mind's gone a little bit. Oh yeah, with the kids and everything like that. What with schooling? Have you started to think of, like you said, they're right into sport. You know, Josh was into sport and everything like that. Is he, like private school sport, or are you thinking like scholarship, or is it just more sort of like state school and he'll sort of, or he enjoys the sport, or has he sort of got like a talented to sort of look for scholarships?
Yeah, he's a decent little rugby league player. He's he's obsessed with rugby league. We all are. The one thing that we have, our family thing is a Friday night going to the rugby.
Yeah.
And
What, going live or just on the tally watching?
oh mate, we go everywhere. Honestly, the
Yeah.
amount of money we spend on following our club. Obviously, we came to Australia to follow them. We've been to France a couple of times when we played Catalan to support them. And yeah, last year, me and Joshua, for context, in fact, the last 2 years, me and Joshua have only missed one game.
Nice.
And the girls have missed a couple more than us because some of Ella's cheerleading competitions have been on the same days that rugby's on, and obviously nothing in the world is more important than cheerleading.
Yeah.
So he's not like he's going to be the next Matty Johns, but he's got something about him rugby league wise. Will he make it as an NRL player? Highly, highly, highly unlikely.
It's pretty hard to do, isn't it?
Oh,
Like,
well, of course it is. But
I
in
think
terms of, sorry,
yeah, I
go
was
on.
just thinking, Kevin, it's more sort of like, have you thought about certain schools that that focus on the rugby, and all that sort of stuff? Because I know in previous podcasts, people might have said, "Oh, we've chosen this school because of art, music, or art, or sport, or they've got a good program with this." Have you guys looked into any of that at all at this point?
We've looked into, one of the areas we would potentially be interested in moving to because we believe it's going to grow quite a lot over the next kind of 3 to 5 years is kind of just north of
Oh yeah,
Noosa Bay. And people tell us
beautiful. Yeah,
that Queensland is building up from kind of Sunshine Coast and down from North Queensland, Mackay and Rockhampton, and all of that kind of land in between. That's where that's what's going to evolve.
yeah,
So we did look at a couple of schools, but we've not invested a major amount of time in that, if I'm honest, mate, because
yeah. Not ready.
there are so
Not,
many
not,
other
not at that point yet.
variables, and Joshua Joshua's the kid that plays every sport for school. He'll play footy, he'll play rugby, he'll play basketball. You can have a shuffleboard competition, and he'd say, "I want to play, I want to play." He'll try anything, and he is pretty good at sport.
Yeah,
He's obsessed with darts at the minute, and we're playing darts most evenings. And he actually played last night and hit a 16 dart leg, which is pretty good for a 10-year-old kid, and he hit 180. And people were just like, "Wow!" And he's only been doing it a year. He started on his birthday this year, and so he's probably a little bit more. He's tried basketball; he was pretty good at it, but we had to travel quite away for him to do that, and he got a bit bored in the end.
sounds
And he's
sounds
been
like he's
playing.
got sport in the veins, mate. Like
Well,
he's got a bit of
that's what
talent.
that was my career. I was a sports teacher. We did sport at school, and I became a sports science teacher. And yeah, it's kind of
So you
synonymous
built
with
the
living in.
dream machine, mate. You turned
Yeah,
him into
mate.
a dream machine.
Living in the
What?
northwest of England, you don't really have a choice. You're born into rugby league in St Helens. You've got Liverpool one side of you, Manchester the other. So you're gonna have an affinity to a football team or soccer team.
Yeah,
And then yeah, there's all sorts of other individual sports like darts, golf, tennis, cricket. Um, there's there's a lot that we can access, but in terms of the opportunity over there, just the climate, the outdoor weather, the opportunity to engage in these sports, the amount of times you've had football cancelled or
you won't
rugby
you won't
games.
sleep, mate, with all the daylight we get here.
Yeah,
You'll be
well,
up
Yeah,
and
and
very,
that,
very
do you know, that's
healthy.
something that we're actually working on. Me and my wife are kind of up early bed early culture, getting up at 6, getting to the gym because we know that exists over there.
Yeah.
One of the things that really kind of was start for me when we were in Sydney. We went. A friend of mine gave me a tip to go to this Italian restaurant up in the Rocks. I was like, right, okay. So we thought, we had a couple of drinks wherever we were, and we headed up there about 8:15, and we got there at 8:30. And we're like, can we have a table for 7? And we're like, oh, sorry, we're closing in half an hour. And I was like, it's 8:30. Oh yeah, since COVID, this is us now. This is what we do. I was like, wow. And he was like, yeah, everyone will be in bed at 10, up again at 6, and yeah, just
So in the
completely
rocks
different.
as well, mate. The rocks used to be booming.
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. So I guess part of you moving to Oz, obviously the outdoor lifestyle and all that. What about financially? You mentioned you've got a bit of equity in the house, which is good, and you've got good jobs at the moment. Have you done like any maths, anything concerning you about like what's going to be more expensive for the Cunningham family, UK or Australia? Have you looked into that?
Not in a massive amount of detail. Obviously, we've looked at house prices. So our property here, I don't mind saying, is worth has been valued at £425,000, and I believe the dollar's
It's 2 to 1 at the moment.
just about hit 2, hasn't it?
Yeah, right now it's 2 because we've had lots of people ask us about that, about the money transfers lately.
Yeah. So
Um,
we're in a position where we're able to live very comfortably and afford a mortgage on what the
what?
equivalent over there would be. I don't know, about a 900k property.
Yeah.
So we've looked at that. One thing a lot of people say to me, and a myth that I've got factual evidence of busting. Sorry, I'm just blowing my nose. When we went to Opera Bar, um, we got there, we sat down in the sun, got my wife a jug of this like mimosa, it's like Prosecco and orange juice. I got a beer, I got the kids a drink. We sat having a few drinks, kids got a bit peckish, so we got like, I think it was four things off the food menu, so like some chicken, some chips, some pizza, something else. I had another couple of drinks. Catherine had, I think she had a glass of champagne and a glass of prosecco. And I remember we said like, let's get back to the hotel. We'll get unpacked, and then we'll go out for a walk. So I went to set up the bill, and when we came over, we just took our credit card and said, what we'll do is we'll just live our best lives. The kids will want for nothing. We'll eat and drink what we want, and we'll worry
Yeah.
about it when we get home. And that's what we did. So
Yeah, good
I
dad.
went to the bar, and I spoke to this guy at the bar, and I actually side tale, but a friend of mine who visited his brother in Oz a couple of years ago, unfortunately passed away. God bless his soul. Tom Charnock, and one of the last things he did to me, he gave me $10, and he said you'll need this more than me. I won't be going back to Australia now. And I always said to myself, when we got to Australia, I'd buy a beer with that $10, and I did. I bought a bottle of Corona with it. But anyway, so I settle this tab, and the guy goes to me, 178, and I was like, pounds? He went, no, bucks. I'm like, that can't be right. So I've just sat in 26-degree heat. I've had 3 or 4 beers. I've got a belly full of food. My kids are happy. The wife's happy. The Opera House is there. Sydney Harbour is there. Are you sure that's right? He printed off a receipt, and it was exactly right. And
That's good.
the reason I remember it being $176 is because the exchange rate was 1.76. So it was
That's
£100. Now, if you came over here, Wes, and you took your wife and 2 kids to the Albert Dock in Liverpool, or to the centre of Manchester, or anywhere in London, and you bought what we bought at Opera Bar that day, you're talking way more than £100, mate. Way
yeah, it's
more.
crazy.
And look, Joshua, some of our friends bought Joshua a Gatorade, so then it became his prerogative to have every single flavour of Gatorade that exists in Australia. So every shot we'd go by, oh, have these got any new flavours? And that's where we started to understand sugar tax, because I was like, why are these $8? and like a bottle of water's $3 and sugar tax. So we started to understand that, and obviously going into Coles and having a look around Coles and looking at. So the good thing is for us, having been to Australia, and like the whole notion of the bottle shop, that's magic. I love that.
They should invent them in the UK.
Oh, mate. Well, they kind of do exist to a degree, but all of the supermarkets sell alcohol, so they're probably.
I think it's just not hot enough, because that's when you swing past the bottle O just for a beer. Like.
Oh yeah. So
pick a can up.
When we in Manly, the bottle shop in Manly was that probably be one of my closing tales about when we were in Manly, because that was just amazing.
And I like the fact you mentioned that someone important to you kept that $10 note and got yourself a nice Corona, and you had the view and all that. That making memories life. What advice would you give to people, mate, waiting, or in the process? How would you anything you want to throw at them, mate?
I think the first thing is, don't dilly about with the skills assessment. Get that boxed off ASAP. When you get your list of what you need off Jenny, get your quals in, get your CV done, get your everything you need to do. Just put time aside to invest into that, because the quicker you get that in, the quicker you're in the process. That'd be the first thing. I think the second thing is, and I'm really guilty of this, is I kind of sometimes find myself daydreaming, fantasizing about what it would be like, what it will be like, and I'm always still kind of living in it still is a case of when, not if. And
good
it's hard to stop your mind drifting to, especially when you've been there and you've sat on Manly Beach with a beer in your hand, watching the world go by. So try not to let yourself do that too much, because it can get you a bit down. It is a very, very emotionally draining experience for some. Some might listen to this and go, "I was through 5 months, mate. It was fine for me." And then I think the third thing I've written here is to probably try to not join too many social media things, because you can pick your phone up and look on Facebook or Twitter or what other platforms are available, and it's just littered with Brits in Brisbane, moving to Australia tips, DUC. So I've actually left a couple of those groups. I'm still in the DUC, because obviously we're a part of this family now, and we're in. You guys are kind of doing it for us, but yeah, all of those others, because it's the same questions all the time, and it can just add to that whole kind of demoralising thing. And
for sure. I think it's good. Yeah, sorry, you
go. The one other thing I would say is try not to tell too many people. If I could go back now, I would only tell my nearest and closest, because wherever you go now, people go, "Oh, what's happening with Australia?" And they're like, "Still, like, you've been waiting ages," and you're like, "It's not actually ages. It's only like 20 months since we even started the process." So yeah, that'd be another piece of advice is if you're thinking about doing it, or you're at the start and you've not really told too many people yet, you don't need to straight away, because you've got a lot of time ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's good advice, mate, because I think if the less pressure you can put on yourself is important, because the reason why we do the podcast, it's it gets emotional. As you can see, you got the highs of when you're in Sydney and everything like that, the dream, then the lull of states closing. But I think Kevin, I tell you one thing, mate, you can definitely tell a story. You can, mate. You've got your I don't know, it's the northern thing. Is that what you guys are called, Northerners? Is that right?
Northerners, yeah, Northern England.
Is that but you'd have a great time in Oz, mate, sitting around the fire, mate, having a few having a few beers and having a yarn, as we call it, down here
Yeah,
in Australia.
yeah, or a few schooners. Yeah, I mean, I guess I think one of the things we've probably not touched on so much is maybe the reason why. Obviously, we came to Australia, but I'll tell you about through COVID. My wife unfortunately lost both of her parents in a very short space of time. Within 15 days of each other,
Jeez.
which is a tale of true love. Catherine's dad passed away the day after we came out of quarantine with COVID, and 15 days later, Catherine's mum passed away. And on the evening of the funeral, the kids didn't come to the funeral. We didn't think it was right, so our friends came over and looked after the kids, and it was a joint funeral, and I've never seen anything like it. 2 hearses, one after the other, and then 2 coffins on the same thing in church. It was really, really tragic.
Yeah.
But what happened that evening is we got home, we sorted the kids, put the kids to bed, poured us a glass of wine, and Catherine said, because I had the opportunity to come to Australia when I was 21, when I finished my degree, and when I asked Catherine would she go, she said she couldn't leave her parents. so that never happened, and then we sat on the couch opposite each other, gave her a glass of wine. Are you okay? Yeah. And she said, right, so I'm going to Australia. And I was like, Catherine, literally we've just laid your mum and dad to rest.
Yeah.
So there's nothing here for me now. And I was like, wow. And then between then and us going to Australia ourselves, and then when we got home, we just had the extension. There'd been a flood, and I actually fractured my foot out in Australia. Honestly, mate, we could do 5 episodes of this podcast. I've got that much to tell. I fractured my foot out in Australia. I didn't get it seen to in Australia though, because I didn't want to waste a day.
You prefer to hobble around.
Well, so yeah, I couldn't get my
Yeah.
trainer on, and we were doing the Coogee, the Bondi to Coogee trip that day. So I don't know if you've done that yourself, but it's a good 3-4 mile walk. You go past Clavelli and the beach club, but I couldn't get my trainer on, so I had to do it in flip flops, like Havanas. My foot was swollen. Everyone's going, "You need to get that seen." So I was like, "No, I'll be fine. A few more schooners, I'll be fine." And I got home, it was broken, but we had a bit of a flood. And 6 weeks in, my foot is healed. I said this one night, right, I'm ripping this laminate flooring up. I need to find where this flood is. Anyway, I found it. Long story short, we had to go through the insurance because we had this brand new, really expensive laminate flooring, brand new kitchen, and we got paid out probably a little bit more than we should have done. And it was at that point where we said, should we give this a go? And that's where we set the call up with Jenny. And we thought, look, if we get £3,000 in and it doesn't happen, at least we'll never say, well, we didn't try.
Yeah.
And it's £3,000 really. That isn't all our money because the insurance paid us out quite a bit. The guy that sorted my laminate flooring did it for next to nothing, and the actual laminate flooring, one of my best mates, provided us with for nothing as well. So kind of been looked after a little bit in that sense. But yeah,
Stuff. So you got good memories, and you got memories that will be lasting with you for a while with your journey and everything. So, but what we might have to do, mate, is obviously we'll have to interview you when you get to Oz. So,
yeah,
I think from all the listeners, mate, cheers for sharing your, a bit about yourself, Kevin. I think it's good for the listeners to, to get a gauge of that. And from everyone, mate, the DUC family and all that, we hope you get the invite soon and can get out to Australia. So thanks so much for taking the time, mate. Hope you feel better as well. It's not good doing a podcast with the cold. And yeah, good luck with it all, mate. And we'll do another one when you get out here, buddy. How does that sound?
legend. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. And then one final thing I'd need to leave you with this thought is, on our final day in Manly, we were sat on the beach and we saw one of the things I've written down here to your question, why Australia? And there was a family at the front and they had 2 young children. And when I say young children, I mean toddlers. They were like 18 months and 2, maybe. And in that moment, in my mind, my children didn't have that opportunity to grow up like that, but their children will. And that, for me, everything me and Catherine do is for our kids. And soon enough, our kids will grow and flee the nest, and then they'll have their kids. And if my grandkids can go down to Manly Beach on a Sunday morning and run around in the nothings, playing in the water, then I will have done something good in life.
Right, that's it, man. I hope all the people's grandkids can all do that, because that's what the thing is, mate, isn't it? Where we look at now where our kids have got Aussie and UK passports. They're sort of like, Australia and Europe, 2 good continents.
Yeah.
They're at. But Kevin, mate, we'll have to call it a day on this one, mate, because Lisa's going to get cross if we go longer than the time would be. But thank you again, mate, for all your time.
No, thank you.
We'll catch you on the next podcast. Catch us
God
around.
bless you. Thanks, pal.